get to our first topic. The
Gotta
hot
get to
button
topic
topic.
two, because we topic one was us.
Yeah.
Like I said, we're gonna be cutting
Let's
it.
get to our first actual topic,
Yes,
right?
sir.
We've been talking about this for 40. It's been 3 days.
This is technically day 3.
Three
Yeah,
days.
a little over 48.
The Oscars.
The slap heard around the world, nigga.
Like, okay. Here's my take on the situation. Because I'm genuinely conflicted about the situation. So let's start off with this. All right. We can start off this way. Was Will Smith wrong for how he approached Chris Rock on national television? In your opinion?
I remember going through Twitter, all these women are talking about when we talk about protect black women, we meet all the time, and like they're talking about this is how you if you want to protect black women, this is how you should do it. No, like I'm not saying you can't protect black women. I understand Will being upset in that moment, but you can't do that. Not on that stage, not at that time, not publicly. You can't handle situations like that. For one, at the end of the day, what people don't realize is what Will Smith did to Chris Rock, that's assault. And if Chris Rock wanted to, he could have pressed charges and Will could either be in jail, lost a lot of money, all that shit. Right. Fortunately, Chris Rock didn't do it. But it's a time and a place on how you handle things. And you don't do that on that stage because, like, again, everybody's talking about, the importance of protecting black women and everything like that. And if you have a problem with what he did, then you can't defend. And it's like, what y'all don't understand is he won it 20 minutes later, he wins his Oscar, right? And in his acceptance speech, he's talking about Serena and Venus and the two actresses that played them in the movie. And it's like, you're talking about protecting black women, yet in this moment about a movie that's about two strong black women, you're kind of taking that moment away from your movie, and not only yourself winning, your first Oscar. This is a huge moment for you, kind of, ruining that moment, but you're also taking some shine away from those girls in Venus and Serena because it's their story. You won an Oscar for their story. So yes, I understand you got to protect your wife and everything like that, right? But I don't think you should have. I don't think you should have walked. Like, I don't have a problem with him slapping him per se, but I don't think you should do because it was funny.
You said I don't have a problem with you slapping.
But at the same time, it's like you're a grown man, and I think too many people don't understand that when you're a grown ass man, and men are supposed to use their words to settle disputes, right? It's a way you say it. You wait till it's off air and it's commercial time because there's commercial during the Oscars. Well, you've been there before. It's commercial during the Oscars, so you wait till a commercial. You call them up, you say, "Hey, I didn't appreciate that. Me and my wife did not appreciate that joke. And we would prefer for you to refrain from saying jokes that have to deal with her hair because she has alopecia and she doesn't, take that sort of lightly and doesn't really like that to be joked about." And so I think there's a way to handle it, but I think people who are sort of mad at Chris Rock for making the joke, I think people don't necessarily understand comedy per se, because at the end of the day, comedy is meant to make fun of everybody in every type of way. And so, that's just what it is. And I think that's why you see a lot of comedians sort of standing up for Chris Rock, because they understand that as comedians, you make fun of everybody in the room. It doesn't matter who it is, what they're wearing, how they look, everything. You walk into a room and you're going to make fun of somebody, because at the end of the day, comedy is about taking things from real life and making them and giving them a twist so that you can laugh about it. I think in his apology, Chris Rock was talking about how, comedy is something that he uses to take the darkness that is the real world and sort of take and put his sort of spin on it. So now it's something that's not as dark, it's a little bit more brighter, and it can brighten up the room and bring joy and laughter to people. And so I think people who are sort of, bashing him for making the joke, yeah, okay, it's kind of bad, again, Jada had
because of the
alopecia,
implications,
but at the same time, it's like, I think people have to understand that what comedy context really matters a lot. And it's not like he was really trying to come out and attack her per se, but again, he was attacking everybody. And I think something that other people are really ignoring is that's not the only joke that Jada and Will got that whole time. A lot of people were gunning at them the whole night. I just think that it was kind of, maybe they were getting tired of all those jokes because again, they were getting joked about all night. I think Regina Hall was there, right? She was a presenter for the award. I think she made a joke talking about how, you know, I forget exactly what the context was, but I think it's like a room of a whole bunch of people having sex. She's like, "Will, come up here." She was like, "I know it says y'all married, but you're not really even really married like that. So you might as well come bring your ass up here or something to that nature." Everybody's laughing, everything like that. So I think it's a multitude of factors. But like I said, slapping them cool. Sometimes people gotta get slapped in the mouth. I get that part, but it's a way you handle it especially when you're a celebrity of that status. And I watched these YouTubers called Apple and Preach, and they were talking about it. And he was talking about how a lot of the people were saying, "Yeah, I would have done the exact same thing Will did." He was talking about how those people don't have anything to lose, whereas Chris Rock can't do that. And somebody like Will Smith should not do that because he has a lot to lose, because he has to worry about a public image. He has to worry about getting sued, potentially being arrested, all these
The
things.
effects it has on his family, the
Exactly. Because
outlook,
right, exactly. Because not only because at the end of the day, people were making a whole bunch of jokes and still making jokes about August. And that this entanglement happened 2 years ago at this rate? And they're still making jokes about it. And just him slapping her, sure, he might have seen, he was trying to protect his wife at the end of the day. I get that. But there's also the potential that he might have done more harm than good, because now people are even shooting more jokes at the both of them. But again, it just comes back to, like, for somebody like me, cool. Me slapping somebody in that situation, yeah. So I don't have to really worry about my public image because I don't benefit off of that. Whereas Will Smith, he has to worry about his public image because it's his likability at the end of the day that makes people want to go see him in movies and TV shows and listen to him talk and subscribe to his Instagram, all this stuff. Because at the end of the day, even though the real Will Smith is from South Philly, probably doesn't play games like that. Everybody assumes he's a very likable and agreeable guy because that's his public image, and for him it's important to keep that because that's the most important asset to him when it comes to making money. It's not even his acting ability at this point. It's how likable is he as a person. At the end of the day, he's a very likable person. But that's just my thoughts on it.
Yeah. I honestly can echo all of what you said. Pertaining now, I'm looking at it from Will's perspective. Like you mentioned, like, right, it was most definitely not the right platform to do that. It's never a right time to like engage in violence, but that was most definitely the wrong time to do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's so many people that those two black men represent, right, on that particular stage. You know what I'm saying? For that to happen was just very unfortunate. I know we're making light of the situation because that's what people do. Like, that's what social media does. That's what we do. Black people do. We make light of the situation. Like that's just what we do. But in the grand scheme of things, though, I I feel for both of them. Quite honestly, I feel for Will in the fact of him being like fed up and like having to, and he said it in his speech, like, he did, him and his family deal with a lot in terms of like having to be Hollywood and put up a smile and like take all that's coming to him, right, and never expected to like lash out or to retaliate. You know what I'm saying? So I most definitely understood that was his breaking point. However, I do feel like, as you mentioned, there's ways you can handle a situation like that. Like, he legitimately went out of his way to walk onto the stage and slap him. Like, that's a that's an elongated process. It's not like how like the host be walking through the crowd and like be standing right next to people. And no, he decided to get up, walk onto the stage, which is a pretty good amount of steps to take, and slap Chris Rock, right?
He held the fuck out that follow through.
And
I'm sorry.
and and as you mentioned, and I'm glad you said this. As men, right, we're supposed to handle differences with words. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like that most definitely could have been a conversation that could have been had off camera. But at the same time, I know that like the damage was done on camera on Chris Rock's behalf in terms of the joke, right? Everybody in the world heard you say what you said or whatever. So Chris mindset, or Will Smith's mindset, is like, all right, fine, you embarrass me and my wife, I'm going to embarrass you in front of everybody else too. And I don't necessarily think that's the right approach, but I can understand it. Just like I can understand him lashing out because he's just had enough or whatever. But I do think that Will Smith, being the character that he is, and obviously he like knows better, could have had that conversation with Chris off camera, right? And like urged Chris to give an apology on camera to kind of counterbalance the joke that he made on a joke they made on Jada or whatever. And quite honestly, in my opinion, I don't quite know if people realize the severity of the joke until the slap happened. Because when Chris Rock told the joke, it was a jab, and I feel like it wasn't like a hearty har or whatever. It was like a little small laugh, like it was a little small laughter in the crowd, and you could tell he was trying to transition it to some other things, whatever. Like you can tell that was going to be his last like little joke segment. He was trying to get somewhere else, like segue into somewhere else. I don't necessarily think that Chris Rock was trying to make that like a major punchline. You know what I'm saying? I think that was just something. I think that for me, I can like as comedians, right? A lot of it is improvised. He probably improvised the last second and said that, not knowing or not necessarily contextualizing Jada's situation. That still doesn't make it right because it's still a damaging joke at the end of the day. But I do think that like in that particular moment, I don't think Chris necessarily went out of his way to make a tasteless joke, because that's really what the discrepancy is. It's like, oh, Chris made a tasteless joke about a black woman and he deserved to be dealt with or whatever. And I feel like he in that particular moment probably didn't see the severity of the situation when it came to delivering that joke, because he probably didn't know or didn't keep in mind the situation that Jada has. And I also thought it from the standpoint of these two are actually like, from what I believe, are like cohorts to a degree, because they did like 3 Madagascars together. So obviously they have a good of enough rapport to where Chris wouldn't think that like a joke like that would hold that much weight. And I feel like a lot of people forget that they did like 3 movies together. Jada said a lot of great things about Chris. Chris said a lot of things about Jada. They loved working together in movies. So I think this is more of a complex situation than what people are making it. Because I guarantee you, when Chris made that joke, he did not think that it was going to be taken that way. You know what I'm saying? Doesn't mean the joke doesn't, and I'm not defending Chris. I'm not at all, because I feel like it still was a tasteless joke or whatever. But comedians all over make tasteless jokes. We pick and choose when a joke is okay and when it's not. And I feel like if we're going to do stuff like that, then I feel like we should condemn a lot more comedians that have made jokes about people's physical being and stuff like that. Like we have to accentuate the lines that we don't want to be crossed or whatever. But I honestly feel for both of them. I kind of wish that they both had one. I wish that Chris was more mindful of Jada's situation or whatever, and I wish that Will Smith didn't tarnish his legacy in terms of like him receiving his first Oscar. That was supposed to be a beautiful, monumental moment, and it still is monumental in terms of the speech he did give, because even though like he kind of took the shine away from the award, I still liked some of the sentiments and messages that he echoed in some in his speech or whatever. So it's good for it's remarkable in both the bad and good reasons. But it's just an overall mess, man. It's a very complex situation to break down because there's so many different parts to it. If I was Chris, I wouldn't say the joke. Or as a comedian, right? I know comedians don't really care to like get alteration from like from people, whatever. Like they usually like to go for like the unexpected like punchlines and stuff like that. But if I'm Chris and I have a rapport with Jada, I would ask how would she feel if I like gave a preempt joke about whatever, right? Especially, and I'm pretty sure Chris seen her before he went on stage and delivered his whatchamacallit. So if I'm Chris, I go out my way to make sure that that's okay. I also, what I'm saying, if I'm Will or whatever, and I know that there's a potential that with the person being Chris Rock on stage, there's a potential that a joke may be aimed my direction, I would probably go out of my way and say, look, can you please not like, what I'm saying? Like, I feel like that's something that could have been I feel like something that's something that could have been prevented prior to the situation. But I honestly feel for both of them because I feel like Chris didn't mean any malice with any of the jokes he does. He's actually tuned down a lot since like over the years in terms of the way that he approached people and the jokes that he gives off. And I feel for Will, not trying to make him necessarily the victim because he most definitely slapped somebody on national television. So it's very hard to make him a victim. But I do feel for Will in terms of always having to feel as if he has to hold himself to a higher standard than everybody else. And, just the pressure of that. And, sometimes you succumb to those type of situations. Hopefully they make amends. On the bright side, Chris Rock has grossed over 200% more ticket sales in the past few days. Like they said that he has garnered more ticket sales in the past day than they have in the entire time they've been selling. So that's making a negative into a positive. But in terms of Will, I feel like every celebrity has a stain on their legacy to a degree. I feel like this is one of those situations where he can learn from. I'm glad that he didn't waste time in delivering a public address and apologizing to both Chris and the Academy. Even though fuck the Academy, but still, like, I'm glad that he went out of his way to do that. And hopefully him and Chris can make amends rather quickly. I feel like Will is an easygoing guy. I feel like Chris is an easygoing guy too. He's gonna make plenty of jokes about getting slapped. Like he's one of those type of guys that won't like take it too hard or whatever. Yeah, I don't feel like this is a situation where we have to devalue or degrade either person in this situation, just because it's a complex situation and these are human beings that we're talking about at the end of the day. But I will say that out of everything that transpired, I just hope that everybody makes amends and it won't be forgotten about. It most definitely won't be forgotten about. But at least, they understood the situation. They understand where each person is coming from. I guarantee him and Chris will sit down and like broadcast them talking about the
Red table
situation,
talk.
whatever, and they'll be fine. But still an unfortunate situation. And I'm not gonna harp on it too much. I'm not really that mad at Chris nor Will or whatever. But I do think that everybody makes mistakes or whatever. Everybody in comedy has made a tasteless joke. Kevin Hart has done it. Eddie Murphy has done it. Richard Pryor has done it. Everybody in comedy has made a joke that like took it too far. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes we need that reaffirming of knowing what boundaries we cross. And sometimes comedians know the line and still cross it. And I'm just saying, some consumers like that, some don't. So, yeah.
Last thing on it, Twitter is undefeated. That's all I'm gonna say. Y'all know. Everybody knows. Twitter
Dog.
is undefeated, man.